Hello everyone, welcome back to Queen's Kitchen. Today we're going to be making spaghetti with homemade meat sauce. So this is a really easy recipe and it's one of my favorites. I'm a sucker for Italian food. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go and start off by putting on some water to boil. I have a pot here filled about 3/4 of the way with water. What I'm going to do is I like to add oil and a little bit of oregano leaves to the water, and this just flavors the water, and the oil will prevent the pasta from sticking together. And then of course I'm going to take a little bit of salt and salt the water. That way your pasta doesn't taste bland. And I'll just put this on and let this boil. Now I'm going to get started on the meat sauce. So the first thing I do is I like to take Roma tomatoes. I have probably about 2 pounds of Roma tomatoes here, and they are pre-washed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just really easily quarter these because I'm going to cook them down. So the reason I'm cutting them in quarters is because it's going to help whenever they cook down so it doesn't take them as long. We're going to cook these down basically until the skins are falling off. And this is also going to help whenever I put them in the blender to blend the sauce up. Alright, so now that I have the tomatoes chopped, I'm going to go ahead and put them on the stove. I'm going to go ahead and add about a cup of water or so. And this will just get that process started of them boiling and cooking down. They do have their own juices. So we'll put those on about medium-high. I'm going to also go ahead and add, this is oregano, basil, garlic, and parsley. I'm going to add this to them. It's going to season them up real nice. I'm going to add pepper and salt to taste. All right, and then I'm going to put the lid on, and I'm going to let these do their thing. So the next step is going to be to go ahead and cook the beef. Now you can use pork, chicken, whatever you want to put in your spaghetti. I personally like beef because beef is the best. But this is approximately a pound of beef. This recipe will serve 4 people, but you know, there's 2 of us and we like to be thick. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on the burner. Ooh, my tail's falling. I'm going to turn on the burner here. So I'm going to take the beef, and I like to crumble it up. That way it's already kind of, you know, easier to cook down. That way you're not chopping and slamming on your pans. Now because the tomatoes and the pasta are both going to be seasoned and salted, I'm actually going to add only pepper and a very tiny pinch of salt to the meat. I'm not going to season it with anything else. This is going into the sauce already. For a really long time, I didn't like spaghetti because I didn't like tomatoes when I was growing up. And the way my mom made spaghetti, it was literally like a can of tomato sauce, some pasta, and like some beef. And I love my mom, but that was not the best recipe. So I was about, I want to say maybe 10 years old whenever I had actually first started, you know, taking on the main role in the kitchen. And I made pasta my way. I made the spaghetti my way by using fresh tomatoes, which was wild for me because again I didn't like tomatoes. But I was like, you know what? I'm gonna make it myself like I saw on TV. And when I made it myself, it turned out amazing. And my mom was like, all right, you're making the spaghetti from now on. So spaghetti is actually one of the dishes I've been making for the longest time, and I've been doing it like this with the sauce from scratch for a while. I can also make pasta from scratch, but that's a chore. I also don't have a pasta roller, which is something you definitely want to have. So we're just going to brown this up. And it's going to go into the sauce. And I put this on about high heat because, you know, I want it to cook fairly quickly because my limiting factor here is actually going to be the pasta. The water has to boil first, and then once the pasta's done, everything else should be done by that time too. So the tomatoes are done, as well as the beef. So, like I said, with the tomatoes, we want them to where the skins are falling off, and as you can tell, that skin is coming right off of the tomato. So that means that they're ready to go into the blender. You can use a food processor too, but a blender for me is just quicker and it's easier to pour. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the heat off on these. I'm gonna go ahead and take it over here. Now you don't want to put it right into the blender super hot, especially the glass blender. This is heat resistant, however, I had a plastic one once and it melted the plastic immediately. So I'm gonna wait like just a bit while I'm gonna go ahead and drain this beef here. Of course you want to drain your beef because you don't want a ton of grease in your sauce because it's gonna make your sauce really oily. And you want your sauce to be thick, you don't want it to be oily. Drain the beef, okay. And our pasta water is definitely boiling. It's a little hot. Done that, get it together. So, my tiara broke, and I'm really sad because it was beautiful, but I may just have to use another one. Alright, so while the tomatoes are cooling before I put them in the blender, I'm gonna go ahead and add the pasta to the water so I'm going to start cooking again. I have angel hair pasta. It's my favorite because it's thin and it's not as heavy as spaghetti. You can use spaghetti, you can use fettuccine, you can use whatever pasta you like. You can even use penne. I like angel hair because it's not as filling and it's not as, it doesn't take as long to cook. So I'm gonna use probably about half of this because it's just for diamond and I. So, you know, portion control is always important. And just put it in. And then you're gonna go ahead and stir it up. I use tongs to stir my pasta. That way I can grab it and separate it myself. Just stir until all the noodles are submerged. Alright. And then what I always do is I always reduce the heat by I reduce it to probably about medium. Because like I said, it's angel hair, so it's gonna cook pretty quickly. Replace the lid. And I'm gonna wait probably a few minutes. By that time, we'll be done with the sauce. So my sauce is cooled enough to where now I can go ahead and put it in the blender. I'm gonna do this really carefully so as not to splatter. So I'm gonna take the tomatoes, just scoop by scoop, put the tomatoes in. I got this blender back in college. This was actually one of the first appliances I ever bought myself whenever I went to college. And the first thing I made in college naturally was pina coladas. Because you know, college is the time for drink. And I made it for my roommate, his girlfriend, and one of my friends who I met at Island Days, go Durs. And it was really awesome. And I was like, oh, man, I feel so adult. I have my own blender, and you know, we have alcohol, which I wasn't old enough to drink then, but who is in college, right? Honestly, I drank a lot more my freshman and sophomore year than I did my senior year, when I was actually 21. All right, so I'm gonna pour the rest of this, and you want all that juice in there because that's gonna make it delicious. That's where all that flavor is. Okay, so I have here a thickening agent. You can buy this at the store, but this is basically cornstarch and some Italian seasoning. And all it's gonna do is it's gonna thicken up the sauce. So you're gonna go and add this in the top. And we're gonna put the lid on and we're going to blend. Oh my God, it smells heavenly. All right, so now that our sauce is done, we're gonna put it right into the meat pan with the meat. I'm not gonna turn it on just yet. I'm gonna turn it on at the very last minute. So I'm gonna take my hot sauce over here, pour it straight over the meat. Okay, and we're gonna give it a little stir. So one of the things about cooking, always use the right size pans. I should have gone up a size, which I do have. But I misjudged, obviously. The reason you want to use the right size pan is obviously to avoid messes because cleaning up sucks. Nobody likes to do it. But also, if you're cooking something and you have a pan that's too small, it's not going to cook evenly, especially on a gas stove. So it's important to always use the right size pan. Since we're not actually cooking this and everything's already cooked, it's fine as long as I'm careful with stirring it. But like I said, you always want to use the right size pan. Alright, so this is stirred up nice. And like I said, I'm not going to turn it back on until the pasta's done cooking, which we're going to go ahead and check on now. So what I always do is, people do the wall thing. Walls are nice, but I always trust my teeth and my mouth. So I'm just gonna try it. Al dente, perfect. So reduce heat all the way off. And I'm gonna remove the pan from the heat. I'm gonna go ahead and drain it. My grandma, I love her to death. She got me these awesome things. They are clip-on strainers. So you just clip it onto the pan, tighten it up a little bit, and boom, you have a strainer right here. So we're just gonna pour this. Now, a lot of people like to add a cup of their starchy water to their sauce. The reason I don't do that is because number one, I use angel hair, so there's not a lot of starch to begin with, because like I said, they're thinner noodles. And two, the thickening agent I use, the cornstarch, is more than enough to make the sauce thick without having to add the starchy water. So now that that's done, we're gonna go ahead and turn on our sauce here. And I'm gonna turn it on really, really low. This is just gonna keep it warm, and this is just gonna help it to thicken up a little bit. All right? So give it one little stir, and then that's gonna cook a little bit longer. So next step I'm gonna do, I love doing this. I've done this pretty much my entire life. I take about a tablespoon or two of butter and add it to my pasta. I know, butter and pasta, I'm Southern, okay? We love our butter. So like I said, I'm gonna take about a tablespoon or two of butter, and I'm gonna add it to my pasta. Ooh, this is harder than I thought. And we're just gonna add it in there, and obviously the pasta's hot enough, and it's going to start melting. And then we're gonna go ahead and just give it a quick stir to start melting that butter. And this just adds just another flavor profile to the pasta. And the reason I like to butter my pasta, sometimes you don't make enough sauce. One of my favorite things to do is take the pasta, because it already has butter on it, it's already salted, add a little bit more pepper, add some Parmesan cheese, and eat it just like that. And it's actually really delicious. Butter noodles with Parmesan cheese, oh, I love it. Especially if you're not really feeling like really saucy that day. All right, stir this up, get it nice and melted. At least nice and flavored. Okay. And now I'll do this one last stir. Perfection. Looks so good. Okay. Now again, right serving utensils. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna grab a ladle. And that's all there is to it, folks. So I hope you enjoyed this recipe today. We're gonna obviously enjoy this tonight for dinner. I'm gonna be uploading every Saturday. And like, share, subscribe, hit the bell so that way you can be notified whenever I do upload. And as always, please cook responsibly with a glass of sherry. Thank you. Have a great day. I love you.